Okay, so I think it's about time now to get started. Welcome to the session where we will be discussing integration between Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations and Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales. My name is Christian Rødt. I work as a program manager out of the Copenhagen office in Denmark on the operations system. With me today to present this, I have Lance and Abhishek as well. But I think let's dive right into it. And for the latecomers here, I can see we do have a full room here and a very small screen. The deck is available in the app in case you have a hard time reading what's on the monitor up here. So, on the agenda, I will start out by talking a bit about the prospect to cash scenario, what we will be shipping out of the box with a spring release later this year. Then Lance, he will dive into the integration itself, take a look under the hood, also show you some of the setup options, and also will reveal a bit of the future roadmap. And to the end, Abhishek, he will go in and he will show you something about deep links and some of the possibilities with all that data in CDS. So let's get started. Prospect to cache. This was the vision we started out with. This was the project that started everything about half a year ago. Back then, the value proposition for the integration was that we wanted to enable first-party integration between Dynamics 365 for sales and operations. We wanted it to be simple, a simplification of it, meaning that you don't have to go out and acquire a third-party solution to get the integration. We wanted a rapid integrations, meaning it should be obviously fast, but also fast to deploy. We wanted it to be configurable and flexible, meaning that you can configure it if you don't like what we're doing out of the box, the mappings we have. You can modify it. You can point to other fields, other values, or you could point to your own fields that you have added yourself or your own entities as well. We want to make the rapid integration with some prepackaged integration templates. So this is a template that will hold all the mapping that you need for a given scenario. And then we want a rich monitoring and diagnostic experience as well. So this is what started it all. And then if we look at sales and if we look at operations, in sales, this is where you would like all your salespeople to do the marketing and the sales processes. Once they have closed this great sale that got them closer to the bonus, operations will take over, ensure that we fulfill the order, ship it to the customer. We might have to produce it first, ensure that we have the planning running, buy the material, we have the warehouse functionality, we have transportation and all of that in operations, and towards the end we will invoice it. So the idea with the prospect to cash was that we would go all the way from the prospect until we have completed the sale and got the cash from the customer. That was the full scenario we wanted to cover with this integration. So we went out and asked a lot of customers and also some partners, what is important to your business? What kind of integration do you need? And you can see here that this was actually done just before the renaming. So I will be saying CRM. And for those of you who don't know what CRM is, I don't think there is anyone in here, but that would be Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales. And whenever I say AX, that would be Microsoft Dynamics 365 for operations. Okay. So, and I'll be doing that, mixing that up a lot. Anyway, so if we start out here, looking at the first line here, actually let me go down here first. So we gave them an option to put in values in this. They got this spreadsheet. If they put in a number 3, that meant it was a critical thing for their business. If it was a 2, it had very high value. 1 was a low value, and 0 was what's not relevant. They didn't care about it at all. What you're seeing here is the average of the scores that we got back. So we asked them about integration from CRM to AX and from AX to CRM. And then we split it up into create records and modify records in CRM and in AX. So first we asked about accounts. That's customers in CRM and customers. So what kind of integration do you need here? Here, most people said that it was super critic to get that, to create that inside of CRM, and also to modify it. A little less important, but still very important, to create it in AX and modify it in AX. So for this one, we decided to make that part of our project. So that's included. Second, we were talking about contacts. You can see it's a little less used, but still we had a lot of feedback on that. So that's also included. Moving on to products. You can see here, if we look at creating products and modifying products in AX, this is what most people wanted. We had a few people who actually would like to create and modify products inside of CRM. For now, we will stick to modifying and creating products inside of AX, meaning that it will be any edits will happen in AX, and it will be more or less be read-only in CRM. But you will be able to see all the products you would like to see. I'll get back to that. There will be some filtering going on there. Quotations and orders. This is very key to the prospect to cash scenario. So first, when I look at the numbers, I was a little bit confused why it was not important to our customers to have this. But then drilling into the data, we could see it's because either you want quotes or you want sales orders. So it's about 50-50. So 50% they would like to create quotes in CRM or in AX, and then have those synchronized. And then they will handle the orders in AX, or the other half, they would actually like to create the orders inside of CRM. They don't use quotes, or they don't synchronize them to AX. So that's why these values are lower here. And then you can see over here that a lot of them actually wanted to have the data synchronization from AX to CRM for sales orders. So the other way compared to what we were, you could say, expecting with the scenario we had. And this is because if you create the sales order inside of AX, it could be that you manually create it, or you have it from a web shop, or whatever you have. You need the order history in CRM for your sales activity and your campaign. So you always want to have the sales orders available in CRM. So we decided we'll do both, all of it. Next, sales order status. So you could say this is part of the sales order. But the status, is this active? Is it delivered? Is it invoiced? And so on. And we actually saw a lot of feedback on that they would like to be able to track it. And obviously, that's all coming from AX. This is where we want to deliver and fulfill the order. So this is also where we track the status. Moving on, we have the price override on the sales order. If they needed that to be able to override the price, so you get that. Price calculation from AX. Expectation right now is that we will create a sales order in CRM that will synchronize to AX. In AX, we will allow the trade agreement or sales agreement to update the price, and that will then synchronize back to CRM so you can see the price have updated. So, yeah, sorry.
What about pieces from like retail pricing? So retail discounts,
Yeah. So the question is, what about prices from retail, right? Yeah. So basically, what we have right now, whatever pricing engine we have in AX that will work on a sales order, you would be able to use that. Yeah, and this is this is not the retail one. So that's why I'm saying it's whatever you put in the standard sales order for AX, not the retail.
there's two standard sales order types in AX. But it's retail and non-retail. Not the culture.
Yeah. We don't have it on the immediate, but if we have a lot of feedback, I mean, this is a very young project, and we're still collecting. You can see this is actually collecting feedback right now, what I'm showing you. So it's a young project. Feel free to come up here afterwards, and we can discuss what's important for your business. Yep. Okay, let me continue with this. So then we have the invoice as well. We were actually discussing whether we would like to synchronize the invoice as a record, or if we would just bring the information via a link, or you could have a file with a PDF or whatever. And we actually decided to bring the invoice information from AX to CRM. So this means that we will create a invoice record inside of CRM as well. So with that, let me dive into the prospect to cash data flow. So if we look on the top here, up here we have sales. Here we do we create the lead, the opportunity, the quote, and hopefully also the order if we are lucky. Then we just monitor the order fulfillment and the invoice from here. This goes through the integrator that Lance will be talking about a bit later into CDS. Here we have a bunch of entities that will ensure that the data can flow. We also have entities obviously in sales. Moving on, then we have the integrator again, making sure that data arrives into operations or is sent from operations. So here we can pick up the quote or the sales order, deliver it, and invoice it. So what kind of data do we need? First of all, of course, we need the account and contact. That will be both ways, as you saw before. So that will synchronize using customer and contact. We will also have the product, and that will sync to CRM into a product and a price list. We will have the quote flowing both ways. We will have orders. I have split this one into two. One is concerning the order itself, and the other one is about the order status, because the order status, we want to track that and monitor that from operations. And finally, we have the invoice. And this will flow from AX to CRM, at least in the beginning. That is the expectation. So I have a small demo, which is actually a recording. I hope I can get sound on this. Before I started, it's one I recorded just when we started the project. It's to show you the flow, and it's also saying CRM and AX. It was recorded, I think, about a week before we got the name change internally. And what it's showing is the flow where we start in CRM, and then we end up fulfilling it in AX, and we see some of the integration. It doesn't have all the integration points, but it's a 5-minute video that gives you an idea of what it is. And sorry about the sound quality. It was recorded in a basement in Denmark late one evening.
This is a demo of the prospect to cash scenario within Dynamics 365. We'll start out in CRM by creating a new lead. And it's regarding some hotel televisions. And it's Tom Higgins. He works for number 1 hotel. And they are located in Hotel Street in Copenhagen. Like that. We'll save this lead and start qualified. So now with the opportunity created from the lead, we can actually switch over to AX and look at our customers. In here we will see that the number 1 hotel, the account for that, is also synchronized to AX. Going back to CRM. Let's go ahead and work with the opportunity. Let's add a product line.
So here the products are already
So
synchronized.
we want to sell them a television. And let's go ahead right away and create the quote for that.
As I said, it was not meant for this in the beginning.
And on the quote here, we can go ahead and activate it. Looks right. And we can create the order. Now when the order is created inside of CRM, we will notice here that the status is active. Let's switch over to AX for a minute and look at the sales orders. You'll see here that we have the sales order for number 1 hotels. We can now go ahead and start delivering on this. So let's post the packing slip to get it out the door. We will just send all of it. And we don't want to print anything at this point of time. So now we have shipped the goods. Let's move ahead and invoice it. So now that we have invoiced the order, you will see that here in AX that the order status has been updated to invoiced. Let's go back to CRM.
Notice when we get here, the status is
and
active.
Refresh. Notice that the status is now set to invoiced. And if I scroll down here and look at the details, I actually have a printout of the PDF that was sent to the customer that we can open and view directly from here. So here we can actually see that we sent the invoice to number 1 hotels. And you can see that they purchased the televisions for this amount. That concluded the demo. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just close this for a second. So back here. So this was just an indication of what we have been working towards, and this is the goal with small modifications on the way. You could see here I wasn't synchronizing the invoice itself. I was just taking a document from AX and making sure that that was lighting up inside of a sales system. So what is it we plan to put in the box that we will be shipping later this year? I split it into 3 pieces. One is the integration. There will be some templates. This is what will make sure that you have the mapping needed to map the entities and the fields from one system to another. And here we are mapping between sales and CDS and operations. I have more details on that. Second, we have in Dynamics 365 for sales, we have a solution, some code modifications, where we will have additional details to order status. We will also, we at least plan to make some of the things read-only, for instance, the product, so you don't try to modify a product inside of CRM if it's read-only, because it will basically just get overridden the next time someone changes something in operations. And then we have some minor entity modifications. We have added a few fields. We have made some of the strings a bit longer to avoid truncation of data and small things like that. for Dynamics 365 for operations, we have made, I would say, I think you can concur to that, a lot of data entity modifications. We have created new entities. We have modified them. We have tried to flatten the data structure. We have additional information added. We have performance improvements and a lot of things going on there in the about 10 entities that we are touching in AX. And all of this is planned to be released as part of standard. And if we are ready with this earlier, we plan to release it as a KB. If it doesn't follow if we don't hit the spring release, either we will before that or right after that. That's the intent. So if I look at the mapping, to give you a bit more details on that, so the customer inside of operations will map to the account entity in CDS, and that will map to the account entity inside of sales. On the next slide, I will dive into a bit more details on this specific one. The next one is contact person. We will map that to contacts in CDS and to contacts in sales. That's fairly straightforward. The next one, this is a little bit special. Here you can see now I map customers from operations to contacts in CDS and contacts in sales. And now you might think, well, has he lost it now? I mean, it's not the same thing. But the thing is, in sales, you can sell to a contact. You can create a sales order and sell it to a contact. We cannot do that in operations. So we have to find a way to put a customer, an operations customer, on that order. And this is why we need to have this mapping as well. The next one, that is for the products. In AX, we have created a new entity. We call it sellable release products or something very close to that. The meaning is that it is a sellable product, meaning it's something that is a product that have all the values needed to put it on a sales order. So you're not missing any setup on the product, because if we had that and we tried to sell it in the sales system and it syncs back, then we would get into trouble. So we decided to put some filters here. And also, we don't want all the information about all the products. Basically, most of the customers we've been talking to, they want only a small part of their products from operations to synchronize to sales system. You might have a lot of raw material or components that you only use in production, or products you never sell that you don't want to synchronize to the sales system. So we'll put those in product in CDS, where they are stored together with the price. On the sales side, however, the product and the price list are separated. So here we have to put the product in one entity and the price in the price list. So we will be creating both a product record and a price list record. For quotation, we have the header, we have the line, and so on. A lot of hard work on both quotation, orders, and invoices. But from a mapping point of view here on the overview, they're fairly straightforward. Although the work behind it is quite heavy. My engineer here might say. So I wanted to dive a little bit into the field and value mapping that we have. So field mapping, that is, this fields go to that field. And value mapping, that is, whenever we have a pick list, for instance, this value means that value in the other system. So the colored thing here, that is our internal spreadsheet that we have been using to do the mapping. So I just wanted to show you one for the customer to account mapping here to give you an idea of what we are looking at. So here you can see in blue we have the operations fields. In green we have the CDS fields. And if I scroll out a bit, we have the CRM fields. You can see I have a bunch of information about the fields. I just want to hide some of that to make it easier to read. I just wanted to show you up front that there is a lot going on here. Let me take this one away as well. And this one, and just one more. And then we should be able to see a nice view here on the screen. So, yes? Can I share the spreadsheet? I think not publicly yet.
Well, actually,
Hello. So this set of mappings will be encoded in a set of templates, which I'll show you in a little bit. So the templates will be public, and you'll be able to extend them. So basically, these get encoded into JSON files, which you can do whatever you want with. I don't think you actually want this. I think you want the project templates themselves.
Yeah. So they will be available fairly soon, and we. Yeah, I mean, I think we will start to release them as soon as we're certain that this is the fields that will be mapped. This is still work in progress. So what you're seeing, this is taken this morning, so it's very fresh. And I mean, you can take all the pictures you want. I won't guarantee that this is the final one that you will be getting. There is a copy of the presentation.
So
it is on the app. Okay, yeah, I'm not in control of that. I have uploaded it, and somehow it magically spreads out. I don't know, but I guess it might just be a little bit slow then, getting out there. Okay.
I was going to say, this actually is recorded as well, so there's a recording of this. It'll be at the end of the conference.
And I have zoomed, so you might be able to see some of it. Okay, so what I actually wanted to show in here, I didn't want to go through all the fields here and show you that, but I want to show you that you can see here with the mapping. Some of them are red here. Do not map. I guess you can understand what that means. That means that we will not be mapping this field. In this case, birth date. For some reason, we don't have that, or for a good reason, I would say. We don't have that on a customer inside of operations, and we don't have it in sales either. So this is not mapped. Here we have one called email alternate. So it's another email. We don't have that inside of operations, but we do have it in sales, so we map it from sales to CDS, but we don't bring it over to operations because we don't have a place to put it. And this is basically, so you can go through this, and you would see that we have the mapping. So the idea, what we're doing, and what we would be exposing is that we will probably do like this. I'll filter on this, and filter on that, and that should basically give you all the fields that we are synchronizing. Besides this, there is some value mapping going on here. I can do a zoom again. Seems I'm zooming per tab. Whoops. So going here, you can see that, for instance, here this is the status of a customer. Inside of operations, we can have the status no, invoice, all, payment, requisition, and never. So this is the on-hold status that we're using from AX. And we have to translate into something in CDS where I only have 2 values. So this is just an example. And then again, the other way around. And then to CRM as well. And we do the same below here. We have a field in the sales system, do not email. We also have that in CDS, so we bring that information. That is basically if you have a policy that you do not email this customer. So we also map that. So this is whenever we have a pick list and it's not a one-to-one connection, then we have this value mapping. So this will also be part of the integration setup from the template, which you could go in and modify if you add additional values and so on. So I think that was it for the spreadsheet. Yes, sorry.
The data area map from operations and sales, the data area ID that contains the company information.
So this is about the company, so the entity information. How we, I don't know.
So when Lance will show you the project setup later on, what you will see is when you set up a project, an integration project, you will be able to map to an AX endpoint, including an AX data area ID on one side, and a CRM endpoint, including a CRM business unit on the other side, with a CDS environment in between. So that way you would be able to map those two. Now I understand that there can be more complex kind of mapping. For example, one CRM business unit into more than one AX data area ID or vice versa. All those complexities, and you might even want to include data from multiple AX data area IDs into one CDS environment. Those complex scenarios are being worked upon.
If the company takes into account doing all these synchronizations, typically if you order into one company, it creates corresponding.
So we don't have the intercompany part of the first slide here, part of the first template, but it is an obvious scenario that and actually just before starting on this project, I was working on intercompany, so it was like one of the first things I also discovered that it would be natural if we could do something with that, but it will not be the first thing we will go out and do. But obviously, then we would be able to do intercompany and you could say enterprise. Then you would actually be able to ship around there.
So we'll have to stripe the data with legal entity /BU when it's in CDS, so you can differentiate. Yep. Question?
Yeah. The intercompany will still work. Yeah. It's not like No. This is just, we will not enable it so you can go and, you could say, move data from one company to another company and expect intercompany just to work out of the box. That's not what we're trying to do here.
If we have both sales and operations, now it looks like not to structure operations, we also have to make sure the BUs in sales are considered.
Yes. But if we look at intercompany, so what we are not supporting will be that you will have a sales order in one company that will become a purchase order in the other company. That's not what we're looking at.
I mean, in general, if we have a company in operations,
Yeah.
now we need to have a BU in sales. Is that true? If we want to do a data synchronization between those two systems.
You will have at least one in both systems, right? You can have multiple as well, okay. and you can synchronize those. So you could have multiple BUs, one per country, for instance, that will synchronize into a single entity or company inside of operations. But we can get back to that.
But it would be interesting to get in touch with you later to understand more about the topologies, because these are exactly the kind of scenarios we would like to support. And the more feedback we get, better, because that helps us groom our scenarios.
Yep. Okay. I think I have one more. Okay. So, configurations. The question is basically products with configurations and variants. How do we synchronize those to sales? So what we're doing is we're taking the release product, and we take the product number. We use that. So that means that any variant, so that means basically any size, any color, whatever you have will be created in sales as a product. That's the approach that we have taken for now. And then you can put filters if you don't want that. So then you can say, I don't want all of it. Images. Okay, so question in the back is, what about attributes and images? So this is something we're looking into.
Custom attributes? Is that what we're talking about?
Product attributes, yeah. It's not on the top of the list. Right now we're trying to get this working in a first version and get it out to you. But images, it is fairly high on our list. And I know Lance is working with a team on getting support for having images basically in CDS. And we do have a placeholder for it. So basically we have a field where we can store it.
Yeah, once images show up in the CDS, then they'll flow. So.
So the question is whether or not we're going to get the retail hierarchy. And for now, no, we'll just synchronize the products in the first round. But I can see I will not be unemployed for the next couple of months. That's good to see. Yeah. but already I think we have taken some big steps here, and we know there's a lot of work ahead of us. So the last slide I have before I hand it off to Lance to continue with a look under the hood. That is another project very related to this. We call it Operations Data Light Up in CDS, meaning that we have a goal that we want to have all important data from operations to light up in CDS without you really having to do a lot of things. You probably have to flip a flag saying you allow it, meaning that we would have the integration with the entities and everything, so you could just send the data to CDS, and then you have the data in CDS, and you can use it for whatever you like. And this will bring us closer to one united dynamics between the different apps. Abhishek will have a few examples on that later. But I'll hand it off to Lance.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Very good. All right. So I'm going to start off with some context slides to some of which Christian has already covered a little bit. But from a framework perspective for the data integration projects, we wanted it to be very clear that we have these two products. We have sales and operations that we want to act very seamlessly together. And the way we're pursuing this, if it's not obvious, is we're using a scenario focus to go through the products in waves to bring in sets of entities in scenarios that light up various scenarios. So for instance, the first one we're working on here, which you've seen today, is prospect to cash. The next one that we'll be working on actually sort of in parallel is project service and field service as well. And as you kind of get a sense for what the framework is like and what the capabilities are, you'll see that things will kind of start to snowball after a while, somewhat independent of the framework team itself. So the first concept is that we're going to ship a set of predefined project templates, and that's basically what Christian was talking about, was that set of predefined templates, but they are customizable. You can change them. You can define your own. You can define your own templates. This could be either an ISV. This could be the customer themselves. The goal is that they're easily administered. So this is just a slide from the existing bits as they come across. But the idea is that you have a dashboard. The important thing here is that there's a lot of data that needs to be integrated between these two. And even if sales and operations were a single product, then even if that were true, you would still have instances across various geographical locations where you would still want to integrate data. So as a consequence, one of the primary goals of this overall framework is to make sure that it's easily administered. So there'll be a little dashboard. You'll be able to see, for instance, which runs have failed and types that have failed. The other idea here is that when something does fail, that the failure is not limited to simply an IT administrator in terms of being able to deal with them. Some of these errors would show up in either operation or sales for the end users to be able to deal with records that are problematic. So you may have noticed that we're going to be synchronizing data through the common data service. And I often get the question, why? Why are you bothering? You could go straight across between the two systems. The reason we're synchronizing the data through the common data service is to allow business users to be able to create applications more easily. And the canonical scenario here is simply that I have some master data, say, for instance, employee or product or whatever, and I want to simply extend that with a simple little app. Simply getting a hold of that information to be able to start my app is a difficult thing for a business user. But if we can make that data available, at least the master data, then we go a large way down the path of enabling business users to kind of customize and add to the experience. So whether or not we synchronize transactional data, that's more in the judgment call area. But the key thing that we want to make sure we get through at least is the master data. All right. So now Christian talked a little bit about the various fields that we're using to map. But an important concept that I want to make sure everybody understands is the way that that we're going to be synchronizing. And we're going to be synchronizing on business keys. And so a business key is, if I use a SKU to identify a product in operations, I use that same SKU to identify the product in sales. If I identify a customer one way in operations, I identify the customer the same way in sales and operations. A business key is a key that spans multiple systems. And in order to do that, that means that we need to settle on what it means to have a business key in a particular case. So in the case and one of the issues we have that we face here is that sales doesn't always have a business key associated with things. So we have a combination of a GUID and an ID many times for these, and they don't have to have a business key. So what we want to do is we'll add basically a field where necessary and make it required in order to sync data across the two systems. So you have to put in a key, or we'll have some ways for you to maybe get the business keys into the sales side. But the key point is that whatever record that we think about here in sales is the same as it is in operations. Same identification mechanism. And then we can use CDS for deduping and some other kinds of interesting scenarios. So this is the slide that, this is a variant of the slide that Christian showed. And what the key point here is that there's two ways to think about sync. There is data sync, and then there is process sync. So data sync is simply about moving the data, copying the data back and forth. And you saw in Christian's example in the video he did, you type in the customer information, and it simply is available for use then in operations. It's there. It's simply available. I can use it. I don't have to copy it again, okay? The second kind of sync is process sync, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which is that when it shows up, then I want to trigger something else. I want to trigger a business process. The key point here is that we're going to start with data sync and enable those scenarios. And right about now, actually, in about a week or two, we're going to start down the project of doing process synchronization work as well. We started in the January timeframe for doing data sync. So we're going to start here shortly on process sync as well. But that'll get kicked off. But both are important. Now, before I go to this, let me hand me that little piece of paper right there on the left. So I think somebody was asking the question about how you would integrate other systems into this story. So if I come back to here, I should hope that it's clear that if I have additional auxiliary systems that I'm working with, that I could define my own templates, and I could extend them in my own ways and have them synchronized through the common data store. It's a common data service. The only real trick is going to be when you go into the common data service, you'll want to take advantage of the standard entities that we're providing, because those are the ones that we're going to be synchronizing to. So we're going to have a whole bunch. I think we have like 75 or something like that now in the common data service that are already there. And there's going to be a whole bunch more that are added. But if you're working with the entities that we know about, then all the other first-party applications that are synchronizing will be going through those standard entities. And that's why we call it a common data service. All right. Now, how are we doing this? This is a simple little animation to highlight what we're doing. So we'll extract the data out of, for instance, say, sales. And then we will land it in CDS. Now, we'll use something called the M engine. Who here has heard of Power Query? Some of you. How many of you know the language underneath Power Query? It's M. There we go. So M, the nice thing about M is that it can go to 75 different data sources today. It is a very powerful transformation language. Query and transformation language is what it is. By using M here, this sets us up in the future for being able to do data integration with other first-party apps or other partners that want to work with us directly. So we'll do an import. There'll be transforms you do, deduping, and then you'll land things into operations. Now, to begin with, just in these baby step days, we're going to be doing one way. We'll talk about what it means to do multi-master scenarios at some point. Let's see, now I want to go, where's the directory? The one that says Lance. And I'm going to mute it. It is muted, so if I just play, it'll go. It is playing. Oh, good. Okay, great. So over here on the left, you can see we're starting with sales. And we have about 200 records or so in sales. And again, we're going to go one direction and move it through the common data store. So here in a second, there we go. I'm going to go to operations. And you can see, nothing behind my hands. There's no data here in operations. Do a refresh here just to prove it. And then the final place to go look here is actually, I think we'll go to the administration center as soon as it hurries up. Yep. I'm saying something interesting here. I can't remember what it is. Okay, here we go. So this is the admin center. And actually, let's look first in the common data service. And let's take a look at some of the entities that are there. Here we have a number of entities. And here's a list of the various kinds of entities that are there. And let's go search for sync, because these are the entities we're currently synchronizing through. We're not yet going to the standard entities. And I misspelled sync there. I want sync without an H. There we go. And we're going to synchronize account. Yep, we'll get there. Click. There we go. And in account, as soon as it displays, you can see here's the set of attributes that we will use. Now, this is the leg, and we'll take a look to show that there's no data here. There's no, and the other way to look at this, by the way, a more common way is to look at this in Excel, because we can easily see that there's nothing there later on when we do a sync. Here we go. There we go. Refresh. Boom. See, no data. Okay, great. I did this on Sunday, by the way. I should say that it's been pretty crazy with the developers. My demo was a little bit broken. So anyway, so I took this recording for this. All right, so now what we're going to do is go to the admin center. We're showing up right now in the Power Apps admin center. By the time we actually GA, we plan to ship in something called the Dynamics 365 Admin Center. It will not be the Power Apps Center. It will be a place for IT admins to do work. So you see here we have an additional tab. It's the Data Integration tab. And there's some of the various projects I've run. And we'll go ahead here. And now there we go. Pointing at the various projects, we'll say New Project. And wait for it. I could have edited the video. This is completely uncut. There we go. So this is a set of templates. This is a set of templates that we have been working with as we do our testing. And we'll pick a count. So you can show we have a list of about 7 of them. Here we go. I have to give it a name. There we go. I'll give another Lance. I think it's 08 at this time. And we'll pick the account to customers template. There's a number of them. And now I'm going to provide credentials. Now, it's super important here. I'm going to do my credentials for sales, and I'll pick a data set. Now, in the version of this dialog that shows up a couple days later, we provide a data set for choose the company as well for operations. But if you are a CRM administrator, it's very important to them to make sure that if data is ever leaving the CRM sort of world, that you give consent. So there'll be consent dialog that comes up in a minute. So I'll pick my data set. Eventually, you'll be able to provide a connection string here as well for the common data service. And we'll choose a data set, which is, an environment, which is foo. I was testing environments name. If you could look at that, it was kind of interesting. Okay, so we'll check my connection here, and we'll pick, I'm going to go back here and look at the connection string for operations. So you see there the GUID starts with 57, and so we'll come back over here to the center, and we'll pick 57 down there. There you go. And we'll say next, It's ready to go. I've done all the things necessary. And I hit next, and I give privacy and consent. So now here, there's two kinds of consent going on here. There's consent both for leaving CRM, because it's an ISO-certified system at a certain level of privacy, and CDS and operations are not yet at that level, so you need to provide consent for that. And the other kind of consent is that you might be moving between geolocations. The dialog will eventually show the locations of the regional centers that actually the data sets are in, so you can easily see if the data is moving between various centers. Okay, so this is a project. It has a grand total of one entity in it. This could potentially be populated, as Christian demonstrated, by 9 or 10, whatever, a whole bunch of entities that you want to go in a particular order. Here's the mapping for the first leg of that journey, which is source to CDS, coming out of CRM and going into CDS. You notice we call it CRM. We don't call it, in this demo. Let's go look at the other leg. And this is the leg going into operations. And the other way to switch between them is to just kind of click at the top there, and you can switch back and forth. On the destination side, you can change the fields that you're actually moving to. We kicked this off. I think I missed that. There was a sync now. I hit the sync now. This is actually started. I'm going to hit refresh here because there's a bug in the display. And you'll see that it really has started, or at least it started on Sunday. If I expand that, there it is. And the data is actually already in CDS. So we'll go over here and look now at CDS. The easiest way is to the spreadsheet. We'll hit refresh. And there's my 200 records. And then because I'm a big believer in the technology, I quickly go over here now to operations thinking it's already done. It's not quite done yet. You have to go back to the project. And it updates the UI about every 20 seconds or so. So it's not quite done here. Let's go back and we'll look at the administration console. Hit refresh. Not quite done. Expand. We have that bug fixed now. Still not quite done. So the key thing to understand here is that this is, again, just simply a one-way push of the data into operations. That's how we'll initially go out. We're not going to give you a lot of ability to turn right or left in the TAP program. So if you're in the TAP program, again, we don't want you to try this on production data yet. The current plan is for us to GA basically by the end of, there it is, it's complete, is to GA by the end of April. Now if we come in here to AX and I hit refresh, there it is. Okay, so that's the demo of the technology. Again, it was running as of Sunday, and I was fighting with the developers over the cluster that we were in. I was doing work and they were doing test, and we kept running into each other. So I decided to go with the video. We need to kind of provision a nice place to be able to do demos rather than the active development experience. So, okay, so access to this today is via the TAP program. Don't use it on production data. I've been asked by lots of people to kind of reinforce that. And again, be aware of the transfer of data either out of CRM or between different geos of location. I mentioned this also previously, which is that we began this data synchronization effort in earnest really in the kind of a January timeframe, and then now we're beginning on the synchronization part in March. And so this is our immediate backlog. We've talked about process synchronization. The auto handling of business keys, we'd like to make it easier for you to move. If I'm generating business keys in operations, but I need to have them on the sales side, we'd like to help you out there. The multi-master scenarios, when I've done this demo so far, I get a lot of questions about the multi-master scenarios. Let me simply say that if I sync every 5 minutes, And in that 5-minute period, if somebody edits a record over here and somebody edits the same record with the same business key over here, I can have an obvious conflict, right? So there's lots of strategies to deal with this. This is not a new thing in computer science. There's lots of different strategies you can do. Last one wins. There's lots of things you can do. But usually you end up with somebody gets to vote. Somebody gets to make the tie-breaking. So one of the systems has the tie-breaking ability. So, if it's an account, maybe it's sales. If it's a product, maybe it's operations. I don't know. And then you want to do something with that record that was in dispute. Go put it to some place where somebody can take a look at it and do something with it and decide, oh, this edit needs to be handled. And you want a human to do something with those. And as long as the chance for those conflicts is relatively low, relatively rare, that's something you can probably deal with as a business, then a data synchronization story is probably fine. If it's high volume and it's absolutely important that there be no ambiguity as to who won for maybe a transaction or something like that, then you don't want to use data synchronization for that kind of a story. You want to use process-to-process kinds of communications. So data synchronization is for scenarios where you want to move data in bulk. This whole project is set up to move data in bulk. After an initial move of all of the data in bulk, it just kind of operates on deltas. But it's oriented around the bulk movement of data. And if you don't have any tolerance for ambiguity on records, you do a process-to-process kind of a sync thing is what you'll probably want instead. All right, and a multi-master will come. I don't know if it'll be there by GA when we GA in April, but it will be coming shortly thereafter because it's very important, we know. And the final piece is data synchronization with third parties. Once we have this system in place, you can imagine friendly third parties that really want to be an integral part of the Dynamics ecosphere. They can play in this sort of game as well. We have a lot of applications within Microsoft that are now starting their development directly on the CDS. But we can see that if you already have an application that's out there and you want to synchronize with the CDS, this would be a relatively nice thing to use. And that's why the MPQ story is interesting. All right. Questions? Yes, sir.
Sometimes when you're working in sales, CRM, you want to see some information from operations. What do you want to synchronize that?
Yeah, I don't want to see all the data. Yes. Do we have that processing slide still anymore? No. Okay, so there's another. If I go back to this slide right here, there's a slide I normally do. This one, where the arrows, the three arrows on the far right, which is the ones that go, the ones that go under order, and order. Those can, when you move to a process sync, you just might want an event that says update some, the order has shipped, or it's been delivered, or it's been invoiced, or whatever. You don't want a whole copy of the data coming back. So you just want an event. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
For example, I'm working in CRM.
Oh, you want to link to them.
So we should maybe keep the questions for later and let Abhishek get on, because we have this first slide starting like this.
Perfect.
So actually, that was a nice segue to one of the two demos that I had set up called Deep Links. In this one, I'm exactly going to show you what you asked. How can you open up operations data from sales? So this is not something that is part of the product yet. It's a prototype that we have developed, and this is something that can be done as well. The value prop of this is going to be obviously the productivity that you can gain with customers. Can we switch?
You want to talk to this first?
No, it's fine. I'll show it on my machine.
So it might be that we have a small screen, but we also have a very slow projector. meaning it takes like 20 seconds.
There we go.
to switch.
So here's an account record in sales, and of course the salesperson might want to see some additional information. Let's say the shipment history or trade agreements and whatnot. And of course, the beautiful thing that can happen is if you click on this one. Still slow. It's coming. There we go. You can see the splash. Wow, this is slow.
We're thinking that as well.
So of course, in that case, I'll come to that. So now we have a direct link to the corresponding record in operations. So what I've done here, and I'll quickly show you how we got to do this. If you go to options in an operations form, click on get a link, you get this. You can use this in any application in a browser to access the record. However, what is also possible is to generate that link programmatically. Here are the few lines of code I wrote to generate this. I'm not going to go through all of this. There is a wiki in the Dynamics operations wiki. There's an article which has this exact code snippet and explains how to get that and what it's doing. And a link to that wiki is there in the PowerPoint. But the essential thing I'm trying to say here is what I've done here. I've created a new field in the customer table in AX or operations, and in the insert trigger, I call this piece of code to generate a deep link. I save that in the record, and then when synchronization happens, I've also added a new field in CDS and a new field in sales. So as part of all the other data, this deep link gets transferred to sales. To, if I go back, the other field over here. Right? So, does that answer your question? And you had a question here about licensing? Yeah. Can we repeat the question?
Yeah, what about licensing when we're using the CDS and integrating data between the sales and operations?
So basically, when we're looking at
Would
the
you
deep
repeat the
link here,
question?
Yeah, so sorry. So the question is regarding licensing, and I guess who will have access to use this link? Obviously, you will only be able to open the record in the other end if you have permissions and a license that goes along with it. So it's meant for using within your operation, within the company, that you can have direct links. So obviously, if it's a salesperson that's normally working the sales system, and once in a while they want to go into a product to see more details or into an invoice to have additional information or whatever it might be, they would need to have permissions to do that. And obviously, the license has to be in place as well. But it's just a way to say, we can see we have a lot of users today using both systems, and with the deep links, we can point directly. You can also send it to a colleague saying, hey, could you take a look at this record?
In order to set up the template in CDS, do I need to have license in both AX or operations and sales module? And how does the template configuration work?
So for the template, you don't need any license. No. So basically, it's just The template is basically just a mapping where you would have some projects, and each of the projects will have some tasks. Yeah, maybe you want to take over that one.
Yeah, conceptually, you don't even have to be, the sync projects don't even have to be syncing between sales and operations. They could be syncing between other things. So the licensing associated with the data projects goes along with the license to CDS. So typically, as part of your Dynamics, you get a CDS license. So it's limited to a number of CDS instances that you get. And then there's different licensing for, lots of people to be able to read it and so on and so forth. Are we into Q&A, or do you have more on your...
I can go with the last piece of demo, and then we can actually jump into full QA mode. So the last piece of demo was about, actually it's a showcase or a small showcase for one of the reasons why we are so excited about this project is because it's so much more than synchronizing data between the two systems. And it's one of the reasons why, as Lance mentioned, we are taking the route through CDS, because once we have all the data from both the systems in CDS in one place, we can do wonders. It can do wonders for the productivity of our customers, and it can give you viewpoints which will not be visible otherwise. Just to establish that fact, here is a small Power BI dashboard that I built. This chart shows the sales goal coming out of sales, created by the sales team. Now let's presume that I am the COO of the company, looking into it, looking into the sales goals, some slice and dice by team. All that is nice. But what is even more intriguing is now I can have side by side the sales goals. I can also have the forecast coming out of operations. And as a COO, I can clearly see that for the month of February, the sales goal far outnumbers what forecast the operations is working on. So the sales team will never be able to meet their goals because the operations will never be able to meet that demand. We can drill down, and this is more data coming out of operations, where I can see the forecast and a comparison with the capacity. I can see that there is hardly any additional capacity to produce more, but maybe there is room to produce more in January, so I can ask my operations to produce extra. In this example, I'm taking the example of TVs, so that's possible. If it's a food industry, for example, that might lead into some problems. So just by having all of that data side by side inside your CDS system, it took me less than 15 minutes to build up that dashboard from the data in CDS.
Did you use the CDS connector for Power BI?
There's a preview for that one, and the beta that is available publicly today allows some pre-configured perspectives. I can probably quickly show you that from the designer. If you go to where was that? Get data, more. Common data service. As of now, you have a few pre-configured. Yeah, of course, I'll need to open a new one. But what you'll see in the next screen is a few pre-configured perspectives, and there's a perspective designer that is in the works. I'm not sure whether that is in private or public preview. With that, you will be able to create your own perspectives out of your own custom entities. Yeah.
Actually, my question is two parts. The first part is did you took in your consideration financial dimensions and the sales commissions? Is the first part. Second part, you're depending on the CDS, so this will not be available with dynamic deployments.
So the two questions were, I'll take the second one first. Since we are relying on CDS, will it not be available on on-prem deployments? So CDS will still reside on the cloud. Okay, but I believe it should be. We have not tested those scenarios yet, but obviously our goal would be to support on-prem deployments of operations. But as of now, CDS would still reside on the cloud. Okay, and what was the other question?
The financial dimensions and the sales operations. Would there be any integration between CRM and AX? These two parts?
So the question was, will financial dimensions and sales commissions be integrated? It's not in the list of entities that we're integrating in the first batch, but there will be we will be integrating more entities in the second batch and building more out-of-the-box entities in CDS, and they should definitely be a candidate for that. Yeah.
When we run the data sync, you mentioned there is no need to have a license in AX or CRM because it's all configured within CDS. What's the user account that's being actually stamped on the market by when the data sync happens from sales to operations or operations to sales to CDS?
I think what Lance was saying is to set up, you don't need a license, but of course to execute the synchronization itself, you need a user and you need a license to be able to access the operations data. And most likely you want an administrator kind of persona, user account to be connected, so that you can see all the entities.
Yeah, if you saw in the demo, there was a point where I provided connection string to CRM, and I pointed at a data set. So the connection there, you would want to be like a network admin, the CRM admin most likely. And similarly for both CDS, it's currently grayed out, but you would be able to provide a connection there, and the data set. The environment, and then similarly for AX.
There was a question.
So just a quick time check here. We have 2-3 minutes left, so I think we'll take 1 or 2 more questions, and then you're welcome to come up here if you have more questions afterwards.
Yeah.
So what I had from AX, I had products. Question is, he was basically missing entities for items and for trade agreements. So how can I create a sales order in my little demo without having that? And I didn't have item entity, but I had the product entity. So we're using products, release products. And that's what we're synchronizing. For the price, for the very first version, what we are doing, because in the sales system, you can store a price with a price list. You don't have the same capabilities as in operations where you can have sales agreements, trades agreements, and so on, where it's a calculated field. So what we're doing is we will provide one price for the price list so that you can get started and you can see what the base price is. That's enough for a lot of scenarios we have learned. But then when you create the sales order, you can use the price engine from operations and calculate the price and get it back into the sales system. That's the idea.
Do you have a story on your roadmap concerning retail, omni-channel experience, so call center, field service, retail ordering using e-commerce?
So, question is,
Question. There we go. Oh, 2-channel mic. It doesn't work. Question is, retail and omni. What'd you say?
Omni-channel user experience.
Omni-channel user.
Call center, field service, all those talking together, ability to order.
So field service is one of the ones I mentioned, is one of the ones that we're pursuing. The retail team is actually working with us on doing their own project templates. I'm not sure.
It's whenever I switch this on, I can outnumber Lance. That's awesome. I'm keeping this for good. Yeah, we are working on additional projects. I think we'll go closer to the antenna over here. Then I'm in charge again. And then I'll say thank you very much. If you have more questions, please come up here and ask them. I can see people are starting to leave. So thank you very much.